Hello and welcome back to another episode of my MotoGP 22 career mode, and today we're here for the 6th and 7th rounds of our Moto2 season at Jerez and Le Mans. Now if you haven't seen the last episode, I do recommend you go check that one out before we do head into this one so you don't get anything spoiled for you. It was a pretty good one at Austin and Portimao. But either way, coming into Jerez and Le Mans, I'm expecting this to be a pretty dominant episode just based on the performance from the last season. If you remember back to Le Mans was the circuit where they were braking so early and they were actually 3 seconds off me at one point in practice. And Jerez was a track where their pace actually wasn't too bad, but on the opening couple of laps they were just too slow and managed to pull a bit of a gap. So potentially something like that could happen again, but I'm not too sure. At least Jerez, their pace is not too bad, so we might have a bit of a close battle there. But without any further ado, we'll head into the weekend now then, and I'll see you after FP1. Hopefully we've got off to a good start. So then, at the end of FP1, we were top of the timesheets as I expected, half a second clear of Sam Lowes in second place, and then 8 tenths back to Pedro Acosta in third. That was actually a much bigger margin when I headed into the pits and finished the session. I literally only did 3 laps, just enough to do lap by lap, to be completely honest. I probably could have just stopped after the first lap, but I had a lot of time over the AI. The lap was pretty decent, not perfect. It was on medium tyres, Power Mode 2, so there's definitely more time on the table. So it does look like it's going to be a bit of a dominant weekend. So we should go straight through to Qualifier 2 with that time. So we'll head into Qualifying 2 now then, and hopefully we can get pole position. So the time is still top, so as I expected, the AI didn't beat it with their simulated times, because that's literally what they had anyway in free practice for the simulated ones. So you can see coming through Q1, then we've got Tony Arbolino, Cameron Beaubier, Jeremy Alcoba actually, and Barry Boltus. So this weekend could be a bit of a crucial one if we get a good result here, and then Le Mans is a guaranteed win pretty much. If they ride like they did in Moto3, Le Mans is literally a guaranteed win because they are several seconds off the pace at Le Mans. But if we do well here and then at Le Mans, that's really actually putting us down as a favourite for the championship, because we've got a pretty big lead at the moment. We've got over a race win already to Somkiat Chantra, because the last episode was absolutely crazy. Of course, there was a patch that changed the AI performances very, very slightly, but also a lot of the AI had very poor races. Going into the last episode, my closest rivals were the 2 Idemitsu bikes and Fernandez, but the Idemitsu bikes and Fernandez had a terrible episode. The guy that we just had contact with and just crashed. Okay, that was a little bit weird. But the guy we just had contact with there then, Jorge Navarro coming out the pits, is actually the guy that's had the best episode probably overall. He's now 3rd in the championship, but all the AI behind Chantra are very close, so we haven't really got a particular person to focus on, and we've got such a big lead, we don't have to worry too much if we have to finish 2nd or 3rd to somebody. But honestly, if we continue to have a good couple of races and AI continue to be a bit random, we are going to have a very, very big lead, and we can just sort of go into lead conservation mode. It's not going to be quite like Moto3, where even though I was the quickest guy by far, we had a lot of bad luck and actually made the championship quite close in the end. I think on this occasion we have such a pace advantage and AI are having a lot of bad luck that we should be able to pull away and probably wrap up the championship a little bit earlier. So coming up towards the line then to start our qualifying lap, we've got a bit of a marker in front, Jeremy Alcoba. Hopefully we won't catch him up, but he probably will be quite far off of our pace, I would have thought. This has actually been a pretty terrible lap, and the tyre is completely gone as well, so soft doesn't really seem to work here in qualifying. We just go to the top by 1/10 of a second, so not really the kind of advantage I was expected to have. So I think I'm going to go back to the pits, because I think the damage actually did affect me a little bit. I think we do have a little bit of damage because the bike did feel a little bit strange. But I'm actually going to go back out on mediums because the softs don't seem to work in this heat. It's a little bit too hot for them. So I actually don't have any damage, which is interesting. I thought I did, but apparently I actually don't. But either way, I'm going to swap to mediums and have another go, because the lap itself just wasn't great. I made a lot of mistakes. And also just the lack of grip from the tyres really, really messed me up in a few sections of the track. So we'll go back out, we'll try again. I think the time probably would maybe last anyway, a 41.6. I think it's probably good enough, but just to double check, just to make sure. Yeah, Mechanic's just gone top with a 41.4. So is Agora. So really the 2 fastest guys from the last episode were Canet and, well, probably Lowes actually. Canet and Lowes were probably the 2 fastest, but Agora was right up there as well. And those guys seem to continue to be the fastest. So it seems like the AI patch has made Canet a lot better, which would be worrying if Canet wasn't so far down the championship. Canet only has 12 points, and we've already done like 5 rounds of the season. So Canet's already out of the championship, even though his pace is phenomenal, and he's been up there. He's had such a poor run of results, he just keeps crashing every time he's in a good position. So starting this lap then, we've got Roberts like right in front of us. It's not really how I wanted to have him, but he actually overtook me, so there's not much I could do. So honestly, the lap wasn't a whole lot better, but it is 4 tenths, so that does put us back on top again ahead of Agora by a few tenths of a second. So with 5 minutes to go in the session, I think that's good enough, and that's how I'm going to leave it, to be honest. So either way, we're going to end the session and we should be on pole position, but you never know with the AI sometimes. They do find a couple of attempts right at the end occasionally. However, on this occasion, they did not. We are still pole position, 2 tenths clear of Iagora in second place, Canet in third, only about 3 tenths off himself, and Schrotter in fourth again. So you can see all the AI are pretty close, only 3 tenths off, even down to 6th with Joe Roberts there. So a very, very close grid. This is what I said coming into this race, that their pace itself is not too bad. I remember in Moto3 actually something very similar happened. They were quite far off in practice. I was surprised about how close they were in qualifying. Wasn't sure about the race, and I remember they were very slow on the opening laps of the race. But after about 2 or 3, they really started chasing. So that's something I'm going to bear in mind. I'm going to have to go for it on the opening couple of laps just to build out the gap. But at the same time, I don't want to make any mistakes. So I need to try and be a bit of a controlled aggression on the opening lap to try and pull it away a little bit. But we'll head down to the grid now then. Hopefully we can try and get off to a good start and get a win, but also I would like to have a good battle just like we had in the last episode, so hopefully the AI are somewhat competitive in the race. So then we're down here on the grid looking at Aaron Canet in third position, and like I was saying earlier, he's definitely the fastest AI in Moto2 now. It definitely seems like that. His pace has been phenomenal over the last 3 races now. Obviously Austin, he was very good, Portimao, he was very good, and obviously it seems like he's going to be very good here in Jerez as well. So if he was further up in the championship, I would be a bit worried, but like I said, he literally only has 12 points, so my main threat really is Tomcat Chantra at the moment in terms of the actual points, and Navarro as well, third place, and I can't see where those guys are qualified. So if we get a decent result here, we're going to extend our lead by quite a bit. Really, there's no AI to watch out for. They're all so close.
The riders are lined up on the Jerez grid. There doesn't seem to be any problems, and they're all ready to go. A few seconds now, and the lights will go out.
I keep saying this every race, but I really like the fact that AI now rev on the grid. It just makes us feel a lot more alive. But here we are then, the lights are on, waiting for the lights to go out here for the Spanish Grand Prix. The lights out and away we go. We've had a good launch off the line. The AI's launch actually not been too bad compared to some of their starts they've had in previous races. So perhaps it's not all going to go my way here. It's cloudy, so it will help with the tyre consumption a little bit. Lowe's is down at the first corner. Sam Lowe's has crashed. So I think that's 3 races in a row now. We've seen Sam Lowe's go down. Perhaps even more, but 3 that I can think of. Obviously in Austin he went down passing me. Pretty much everybody fell off in Portimao, so I'm not really going to blame him for that one. But once again, he goes down here in Jerez. But here's Agora. He's right behind us. This is not what I thought was going to happen. I thought we were going to check out early on because they were going to be nice and slow. But Agora's right there. Agora's really harassing us here, trying to get up the inside. But we've got a pretty good run out of Cedar Pond's corner down towards the Danny Pedrosa corner. But this is where they break so early. This is where they're losing the majority of their time on the lap, to be honest. The hard braking zones. So the last corner, this corner, turn 1 and turn 2 as well, are their main time losses. Everywhere else seems like they're not too bad, which is a shame because that's just the AI's massive strength, massive weakness. Sorry, in this game is the braking. If they actually braked normally, and the times reflected that, then I think they'd actually be quite strong, to be honest. I mean, they're not very smart either, but in terms of pace, they're not far off if you actually remove the braking issue. So I picked up a Tralamis warning a little bit on the green. Well, actually quite a lot on the green, to be fair. I really struggle with that section of the track, especially when I'm trying to push it as much as possible to gain as much time as possible, because we need to gain all the time we can on the AI here. We've only got half a second at the end of the first lap. Usually we have that at the end of the first corner in some of these races, and they've already brought it down to about 0.3 of a second, so we've got to watch out. The AI straight line speed seems to be quite ridiculous here on this occasion. So at the end of the second lap, then the gap is 0.8 tenths, so we have extended it a little bit, but not really enough. They are still right there. You can see they're pretty much on their qualifying pace, so it just seems like free practice was the anomaly so far. So this lap was better. 1.6 is the gap now. Oh, Vietti's down. Vietti's just crashed. There's been a crash behind. It's still Agora. I was about to say it's still Agora in second, but it's actually Schrotter in second position now. Oh, Bobier and Augusto Fernandez have just crashed behind as well. So the AI seems to be crashing at turn 1 quite a lot. Augusto Fernandez was our championship rival at the beginning of the last episode, but after the last episode, where I'm pretty sure he crashed in both races, and then this one here, he definitely isn't anymore. Try to keep my eye on where Chantra is, to be honest, because he's really the threat at the minute. Agora's been shuffled back to 4th place, so Canet up to 3rd. Canet could well and truly still finish 2nd here. Really does seem to be the strongest AI now, although Schrotter is doing very well in this race. So starting the final lap of the race, my pace has dropped off quite a lot, but we should still be fine. We've got 2 seconds starting the last lap. Don't think we're going to lose 2 seconds. And oh, well, we're definitely not now. The Agora and Canet have both crashed at turn 1. That puts Chantra up to 7th place. So even though Chantra, his AI has dropped off so much, he's just staying on in all the races. that's what's allowing him to stay in the, or say stay in the hunt, but still score somewhat decent points. We've still got over 2 seconds to Schrotter. Really backed it off now though on the last couple of laps because there's no point pushing too hard. They haven't had the pace. They've not actually done the Moto3 thing where they've caught up at the end. They just haven't had the pace throughout. You can see my lap times there. So I did a 41 dead on one lap, but that was really the only lap I properly went for it. Jake Dixon's fell off as well now, which promotes Chantra up yet another position. So coming through the final corner then, at the last corner, up towards the line. Schrotter did close on us quite a bit on this lap, but I did make quite a few mistakes. But up towards the line then, yet another win here in Moto 2. We are really starting to run away with this championship now. So then, Schrotter 1.6 seconds behind at the flag. You can see he did his best lap on the last lap as well, 41.3. So they did start to close up, but it was a bit too little too late, to be honest, for the AI there. They just always go so fast on the last lap. It's not even always the last couple of laps. Sometimes it is, but most of the time it's just on the last lap they pick up the pace for some reason. But I'm not sure how this leaves the championship, to be honest. Somket Chantra actually dropped back down to 7th, so even though Dixon crashed in front, he got overtaken by probably Acosta there, I assume. So not a great result there for Chantra. You can see how many people crashed with the fact that Canet still finished 8th place. So yeah, that really does show you quite a lot there. Agora 14th, Dixon 15th. So the AI just keep crashing so much here. You can see all the DNFs here. Boltus, Koba, Aldeguer, Antonelli, Vietti. There were a few yellow flags throughout the race, but obviously I didn't see who they were, so I didn't bother pointing them out. But yeah, the AI do seem just slow and prone to crashing in the Moto2 class. It's very strange. They were a little bit like that in Moto3, but they seem probably even worse in Moto2, to be honest. And so look at the championship now, then you can see how this is shaken out. Obviously, Somket Chantra doing fairly decently, scores some decent points, but he's now 45 points behind, so he's almost 2 race wins behind me now. Navarro's 2 race wins behind, Roberts is only 1 point behind him. See, Ben Schneider's only 4 points behind him. Augusto Fernandez only further 7 points back, then 2 back to Agora, then 2 more back to Salach, and then 3 to Arbolino. As you can see, the AI are all very close. You can see Pedro Acosta, 10th place there, 84 points. If we have a look at Canet as well, he's down in 16th place, 100 points off now. It is quite ridiculous. It is getting a little bit silly at this point, all the AI crashing. The AI is so close in the championship, but I'm just running away with it because they just keep crashing so much. Look at the Teams Championship now. It was pretty close in the last episode, but we now have a 64-point lead over Honda Team Asia. Now, of course, that can be still taken in 2 races, but even still, that's quite a big lead to have over them with 101 points to Red Bull KTM and 105 to Flexbox HP40. So we really are starting to dominate this championship now. So because we're running away with the championship so much, and I know that AI's pace is going to be very poor in Le Mans, I think I'm actually going to start at the back of the grid for the next race. Just have a little bit of a battle, fight through the pack. I'm going to see how their times are in practice first, because I'm obviously assuming they're going to be slow. But yeah, I think I'm going to start at the back of the grid. So we'll head back to the career hub now then, do everything we need to do, and then head into Le Mans for the French Grand Prix. So then, from this weekend, we gain 10,200 reputation, which takes up to 139,200. As for the credits, we gain 13,890, which takes us to 341,317. It was an average weekend for the development test as well, passing 3 of the objectives, so we've now got 961 on the engine, 330 on the frame, and 1,167 on the electronics. But that doesn't seem to actually allow us to upgrade anything. Obviously, we haven't got enough to upgrade the engine, so we'll just advance forward, because of course there are no notifications to the French Grand Prix. And once again, there are no notifications here either, so that was pretty quick through the career hub, nothing to do here, so we'll head straight into the French GP. So then, because of how the practice sessions obviously work, I need to just do some laps in practice, see how quick the AI are, then probably just restart the session, so I probably won't get any R&D this weekend, unfortunately, but yeah, I just want to spice things up a little bit, go see what the pace is like, and if it is as poor as it was in Moto3, then I think we can have a nice little race coming from the back of the grid. Okay. Never mind, it has been shaken up a little bit here. You can see that, that we've actually got wet qualifying and a wet race. So that does change things very slightly. So I think I may actually qualify for this just to see, because the AI are usually very good in the wet conditions. So I think if we actually do the qualifying, it'll probably be a bit closer. We'll have to see how slow they are in practice first, of course. But yeah, I think we actually probably will have a good battle with them in the wet. So then, at the end of free practice, obviously, like I said, because it's wet, we are going to still do the qualifying as usual, because I think that should shake things up. I'm actually quite pleased to say it seems like the AI are improved quite drastically at this circuit. Now, they're still not perfect, don't get me wrong, but they do seem to be a lot better. They were really poor in Moto3. I think I was like nearly 2 seconds quicker than them in the first practice session, so to only be 7/10 ahead of the AI is not too bad. And with it being Chantra as well, that's also good, because he is the guy that is closest to me in the championship. This time should be good enough to get us through to qualifying too, but everything's in the air now. Wet qualifying, wet track in the race. Anything could happen from here. So let's head into qualifying, see what our pace is like. We're probably going to be a little bit further down because the AI are really ridiculously good in the wet. However, in wet track, we might be a bit more on the pace. So the race could be crucial, and where we qualify will be very important to dictate where we actually finish in the race. So then we were still, of course, top of the timesheets. The other two sessions were actually cloudy, so they probably were a little bit slower. But it does show the simulated times are not broken, at least. Although you can see they have changed a little bit. Canet, Arbolino and Lowe's have all jumped ahead of Chantra on the timing sheets there. But coming to Q1, then we've got Vietti, Bobier, Marcos Ramirez and Albert Arenas. Now this is going to be quite interesting because I've not ridden in the rain for a while. I think the last time we actually did any wet running was back in Argentina, and I did struggle quite a bit there to a decent extent. So we will see how we get on here. We've got a bit of a pace advantage. We've got about 7 tenths of a second, judging by free practice. We're once again coming up the pit to Navarro, so hopefully we don't crash on this occasion. But yeah, I really just don't know what to expect. I feel like they are going to be super strong. And I think they're probably going to gain all that time I had over them in free practice back and more, because they usually do make a bit of a step in qualifying anyway, and with it being wet, they are going to have a huge advantage over me. It's worth noting as well, probably your fastest lap will come on lap 2 of your tyres, because you've got to get the tyres at the temperature. You can see how cold they are already, but it's not one of those sessions where the fastest lap comes at the end, because it's just constantly wet throughout. So out the last corner, coming up towards the line, you can see Navarro's actually pulled away from us a significant amount. That does give us a decent insight into the AI's pace. So towards the line then, what's this time going to be? Really far off. Schrotter's got a 42.6 at the top. I've just got a 44.9. We are 2.2 seconds off the pace. It's not looking good, and we're going through the gravel trap here, and that's our lap gone already, of course. But it's not looking good. We are struggling quite a lot. So start another lap here. Towards the line, what's this time going to be? I have improved, but we're still 2 steps away from Acosta, 6 steps off pole, so it's a close field. We need to find a small amount of time now to move forward. We're going to have to head back to the pits for a fresh set of tyres. At least there's some progress. That's a good thing. It's a very minor improvement. It was a good lap until we sort of got to the last sector. Made a mistake. This is probably going to be about my last attempt, really. 2 minutes to go. Otherwise, it's going to be 18th on the grid. So this one's not been good enough either, so we're just going to have one more attempt because we actually have got enough fuel for one more. I didn't think we were going to. 25 seconds on the clock. If we invalidate this, that's it. Or if we mess up on this lap, that's the lap done. So then I accidentally invalidated at the final turn. It didn't matter because the lap wasn't good enough anyway. So we are going to be 18th on the grid for this race. And honestly, it's going to be a tough one because the conditions are going to be very, very similar. At least they're going to be wet track, so I think we should be a little bit quicker. We should be a bit more on the AI's pace, but honestly, we're not a million miles off. It's just the AI are so overpowered in the rain. But Cameron Bobier on pole position for this French Grand Prix ahead of Tony Arbolino in second, but Somkiat Chantra in third place. So just as I was saying in the last race that he wasn't there and he wasn't doing a good enough job, it seems like he has got a boost. And I do think there is some sort of system in the game where after a certain number of rounds, whoever is sort of second in the championship will get a bit of a boost. So whoever's sort of second or third to you, or the one that's closest to you, will get a boost to give you a bit of a challenge. I think there is some sort of mechanic in the game that does that, because I think that's why people sometimes get different AI being really, really quick. So we may see Chantra back on the pace for the rest of the season from now on, but we've got to do some damage limitation in this race. Top 10 really would be a perfect result, to be honest. That's what I'm aiming for. Hopefully we should be able to pick off some riders at the start, and I'm hoping also in just wet track we should be a little bit more competitive anyway. So we'll head down to the grid now then. It's going to be a tough one. So then we're down here on the grid looking at Tony Arbolino in second position. You can see the clear visors are out. Everybody is ready. I do find it quite funny how the voice line going in says that most people have opted for the safe strategy of mediums, when that's literally the only option. You actually can't pick anything else. I do find that quite amusing. But here we are then from 18th on the grid. Obviously our worst qualified position by quite a way here in Moto 2. We've been very dominant this season. Just got to try to do some damage limitation. Just try and reduce the amount of points we lose to Somkiat Chantra. Hopefully we'll be able to climb our way up the order. Points, that's definitely possible from 18th. We only got past a few riders, but really my goal is to try and get in the top 10 if possible.
It's the French Grand Prix and all the riders are lined up on the grid. In a few moments the lights will go out and the Le Mans race will begin.
So we've got Cameron Bobier then on pole position. Tony Arbolino alongside Somkiat Chantra in third place. Here we are then, lights are on, waiting for the lights to go out here at Le Mans. Lights on, away we go. And I'll tell you what, the AI's jump off the line was actually very good. We've got the good initial, well, the second phase of the start compared to the AI. But this is going to be really tricky because this is a dangerous turn one. Sam Lowe's backed out the power. We've got flying. We've had a bit of contact with Joe Roberts. Sorry, Joe. We've got it a bit hot. The inside of a red ass as well. This is all getting very tight into the first goal. We're pitting with Charlie's warning. Someone's down in the middle of the track. I think that was Bobby Benschneider, but I'm not 100% sure who that was. So we're up to 12th place. It's been a good start, albeit a bit aggressive from myself down towards La Chapelle. Again, looking a bit aggressive, but we've now got Ken Mintz-Kubalt. The inside, we've been hit by Iagora, who's just behind us, as we've now been demoted back down to 14th, so up to 12th, back down to 14th in the space of a few corners, but we're going up the inside of Agora now. Not enough, though, performance on the brakes to make that pass there. One of the biggest advantages, of course, over the AI is the braking in this game. One of the biggest disadvantages is the traction and overall power, so you can basically completely reverse these things in the rain. So you can't really gain on them in the brakes, and they gain even more on the traction control. And that's the second Chalobah's warning. The rear slid that time. It wasn't like I was just getting pinched like on the previous occasion. But you can see they're swarming me here. We're losing so many positions. Look at this. We're down to 18th place where we started again. As we go to the outside of the chicane, we've had contact with Philip Salach on the brakes. So we're back up to 15th all of a sudden. So we're back up into the points pay positions once again. But I can't see it staying that way for long. We're behind Manu Gonzalez. So we've seen both of the Mastercamp bikes so far in this race. Kubalt, the inside of us, and now we're behind Manu Gonzalez. Now the temperature's built up a little bit. Maybe we can try and do something, but Salach is coming back up the inside of us once again. And there you go, he's done us. We've got to go back up the inside of Salach, though, because we really have nothing to lose. But Salach swoops around the outside. The last sector is a sector that I've been very, very strong so far. And out the last corner, it's been a decent start. We've gained a couple of positions, but unfortunately, not enough so far. We are going to be outside the points at this rate, although at least Chantra is no longer on the podium. But here comes Alcoba. We're back around the outside of Jeremy Alcoba, so back up to 16th place. But unfortunately, we really shouldn't be fighting for this position. So I think they are just overall have an inherent advantage in the wet, but in Moto 2, it's obviously even more so, because the AI, I believe, have traction control and anti-wheeler. They have all the electronical aids on, so in the wet conditions, of course, traction control is an extremely important thing to have. Obviously, I can manage it with, you know, no traction control, but you would be quicker with traction control in these conditions because you can just put more power on. We're already 3.6 seconds away from the race leader, you can see, after a lap, so it feels like the opposite to how it usually goes around this circuit. But I think we are finding a little bit of pace now, because we are all over the back of Salach. We've got a bit of a gap now to Alcoba, so maybe we can actually start to move forward a little bit. Oh, there's a crash! It's Chantra! It's Chantra! Chantra's down! Oh, wow! Okay. That is pretty big for this championship. The Subcat Chantra has crashed out of a decent position. That has now put me actually into the points and ahead of him. Pretty much undone all the damage there that we would have faced. That's pretty incredible, actually. That's really caught me off guard. You're almost hitting the back of Salach here, but we are seemingly a little bit quicker now than Salach, so maybe I can make my way through a little bit more and try and gain some positions, try and get back up in the points a little bit. That would be really, really ideal. Oh, Bobier's now crashed as well, so Bobier just rejoined right in front of me. So some of the leaders seem to be coming up here, but we're so far behind that Bobier's actually rejoined ahead of us. Actually dropped a little bit away from Salach and that in front, but hopefully Bobier, with having a little bit more pace, actually might battle some of these riders and pull me through a little bit. I'll have to see, but I've used a lot of Power Mode 3 to stick with them. You can see I'm very, very marginal on it, and we're about to go to the last lap, so we are definitely running out of time here, and fuel as well. So here we are then, all over the back of Bobier, but I think it's actually able to close on them right towards the end of the lap, actually, and then lose it all again at the start of the next one. So we're coming up towards the line. Then what's this time going to be? You see we're half a second off the lead. You can see how much they just gain out the corners on the straight. They have such an advantage with the traction, and they just have more power anyway. We've got Alcoba trying to attack me once again, so I think we're definitely out of range of Bobier now. Pits of a track limits warning there. Just trying to cut that curve as much as possible to take the shortest line through that chicane. Here comes, oh, okay, we've just been hit by Navarro. I was about to say, here comes Alcoba. Navarro and Alcoba both get away inside there to La Chapelle. But unfortunately, Navarro just ran straight into the side of me. And that's pushed me out of the points completely now. So we're going to be on 0 points. But so is Chantra. So our closest rival there, not scoring anything. And then Navarro is right up there in the championship as well. Not scoring anything either. So, yeah, this race is a little bit strange. I'm pretty sure none of the guys are actually anywhere near me, are even at the front, so I feel like we're actually going to not lose too much from this race, even though it's been so poor for me. We've actually got Simone Corsi on the MV Augusta trying to make a pass on me here. I'm using Power Mode 3 even though he's pulling alongside me. Into the chicane. Should be able to outbrake him. We may be able to see if we can pass Alcoba, because we really have nothing to lose if we can't get past Alcoba, but if there's an opportunity I may as well go for it, because 1 point is better than 0, and obviously if I crash that's still 0 points. So, and I have crashed. I have indeed crashed. So that's 2 races now this season where we've had a crash on the final lap, although this time we weren't going to score anything anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But it seems like Tony Arbolino then has won, head of Schrotter in second with Fernandez in third, but I couldn't even stay on the track as the penultimate turn. The AI are ridiculously overpowered in the rain. It's all towards the line then, we'll take 27th place, but what a poor weekend it's been. So then Tony Arbolino wins the French Grand Prix ahead of Marcel Schrotter in second place, Augusto Fernandez in third, Jake Dixon actually in fourth place, and Marcos Ramirez in fifth position. So yeah, it really was just a random bunch of people at the front. To be fair, the top 3, not too unexpected, but everybody else, so random. Kenneth Kubo up there, Aaron Canet in 9th place, Igora 10th, so even those guys have been rapid. They're absolutely nowhere, and apparently Gonzalez's fastest lap is greyed out. Oh, that's actually a bug, isn't it? Yeah, I know now. It always gives fastest lap to the winner of the race. It always says it theirs in red, but the actual fastest lap now goes grey. So I believe that's a bug rather than a feature. So Manu Gonzalez did a quickest lap of a 42.0, and I did a 42.6 as my quickest lap. So yeah, my pace wasn't too bad. You can see I was quicker than like Lopez and Acosta, for example. But yeah, just not ideal there. We didn't have the pace, and I didn't expect to. The wet track was actually harder than I expected. But I think if we had a longer race, I would have I think the conditions would have come to me eventually in those. But obviously we only do shorter races, so this wasn't enough time. So in the championship then, Somkiat Chantra still 45 points behind me. Tony Arbolino moves to third place, now 56 points behind. But really, we haven't lost anything there, to be completely honest. We haven't lost anything at all, because the guy that's closest hasn't even gained on us. It's just the people behind have changed. And Arbolino, to be honest, was probably one of the better riders to win, because he was right down the lower end of the top 10. You see, he gained 6 positions there. So even though it was a terrible weekend, we've basically lost nothing, so not the end of the world. And the same with the Teams Championship, to be honest. Obviously, they have gained a little bit on us, but nothing too crazy. So, again, we're still looking really good in the Teams Championship as well. Mark BDS move ahead of Mandalika Sag, finally. Gas and Liquid Molly Intact GP move up a little bit as well. American Racing moving down, of course, with the crash of Bobier. So, overall, this race may as well have just not happened, because it's just not affected either of our championships. So, even though it was a poor race for me, I'll absolutely take it. You know, I could have gained more points here, but I've lost nothing, so I have no issue with that. So I'll head back to the career hub now. We will have lost a fair amount of reputation. We'll have a look at that, look at the R&D, and then we can end off the episode. So I thought actually we could look at Chantra's crash, and you can see he just goes very wide in here, loses the rear. I was doing that virtually every lap to that corner, to be honest, and that was just enough to unsettle the rear and have Chantra off. So maybe the AI, I think the AI do have some sort of traction control, but yeah, you can see they were struggling the same way I was in the race as well, because I was having that. That's actually what caused me to crash in the end, a very similar incident. Yeah, it is tough. It's tough in the wet conditions. AI do definitely have some big advantage, but in this game, the wet is actually quite hard just because of the lack of grip. Well, actually, it's not that hard to stay on board. It's just really hard to push to try and catch the AI because of how much of an advantage they have. But I'm not going to complain. I'd rather them be too fast than too slow, so we'll take it. If only they were as quick in the dry as they are in the wet. So then, for the reputation, we actually lost a lot here. We've lost 11,800. On the bright side, we did get 500 for actually, going through to qualifying, but of course, it's a massive loss overall there. So we're now down to 127,400 reputation, and of course, we're not going to gain... Actually, we are going to gain credits. We actually gained 100 credits because we finished the race and not in last place, I guess. Alright, fair enough. We gained 100 credits, so we're now up to 341,417. As for the development tests, we actually managed to pass 3 of them again. That seems to be the new norm, to be honest. We just get 3 of them. So now it's 1,760 on the engine, 550 on the frame, and 1,360 on the electronics. Which actually does give us a notification here, because the electronics upgrade has finally come in. So we've actually got improved engine braking now from now on, which is good, because that's where I've been struggling. I was moaning in the last episode about how it felt like there wasn't really any engine braking from the bike, and now that upgrade's finally come in, so we can now put on the anti-wheelie, which will give us slightly better anti-wheelie, and that's going to take, actually, 10 weeks. It could take 10 weeks to do that one, so not too bad. And then we can actually put on this engine upgrade as well, engine upgrade number 3, which is more power. The one that came in before, I was on about how we might have more power. I was actually wrong. It's better fuel consumption, which still technically results in more power because I can use more power mode 3, but even still, it wasn't actually necessarily just more power. But this one should be more power. So if we stick everybody from the engine department on to that engine upgrade, that's going to take 7 weeks to complete. So it'll be a while before we get either of those 2 upgrades. We've got some more on the go once again. But there's no other notifications then, so that pretty much brings this episode to a close. It's been a bit of a weird one, a dominant race in Jerez, a really, really struggling display in Le Mans, which, you know, that's just the wet weather in this game, and the AI just being absolutely ridiculous. Not a lot I could really do about the AI on that occasion, but at least it changed things up a little bit. I was hoping to actually start from the back in the dry at that track, and I think it would have been a really good race, but sadly, just wasn't meant to be. But we didn't lose anything overall, really, points-wise, so I'm not too bothered. But I hope you guys have enjoyed that one. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Hope you're all staying safe, and I shall see you in the next one.